Hello, everyone. I got like quite the point over there. It was dangerous. Welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development for Atomic Mass Games. Super excited to be here with you today because we've got a little special treat, or a return treat, I guess. If you joined us for last mini extravaganza, which happened halfway through the end of last year, you would know that Dallas Kemp painted some Pyke Syndicates on the stream. And that was in celebration of our announcement for Shadow Collective. Well, of course, Shadow Collective is coming up in the next few months for release. It should be here, I think, early summer, but BK can correct me if I'm wrong right now. Of course, there's lots of things going on with logistics in the world, and everything's kind of crazy. So everything shifts all over the place, but that is currently where I think they're landing. And maybe they'll, maintain that course. I feel pretty good about it right now. And the reason I say that is because we just got in some physical samples. So I threw one of them together. I've got the box here. I'm going to show off some of the stuff. We'll see how far we can get before BK starts screaming at me or Summer comes in and knocks me out. But I do have the physical sample for the Pyke Syndicates. We thought it'd be a great time to just go ahead and paint up another one. So we're going to do some crazy color schemes, get things going. I'm going to mix up some Chimera paints. We're just going to have fun. If you have thoughts about how you want this bad boy painted, you let me know. And we're just going to mess around today. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this camera off of me and let's get going. So Summer started this on me like super early because we were still talking about things. Oh, I need some light. Light! Let there be light. Now there we go. That hopefully will show it up. So I just built one of the little Pyke Syndicate troopers. I gave him the cool baton. He's got his gun behind his back, his little blaster pistol. So we're just going to mess around. I was thinking maybe like a dark blue or anything like that. Spoilers I can share. Well, I don't know. I have the box sitting here. I don't know. We showed off a lot during Mini Extravaganza for these guys. They even wound up on one of the game streams. So I think most of the info has been spoiled for them already, but I'm more than happy to answer what questions I can and talk about things and just have a good time. I don't have any Holder Blue. I'm only using Chimera colors today, so unfortunately. I haven't used Holder Blue in a long time on stream, actually, because it's been a lot of just like goofy color mixes. Oh, Summer's coming in. Clearly I'm doing something wrong. Do you want me to move this? I can move. How do you want it?
Down. Keep going.
Yeah?
You can move it
To the left.
Perfect.
Great. All right. Now apparently you'll be able to see all of my color mixing that I'm going to do. What faction can take them? All the factions can take them. So there you go. I feel like we showed their card. I think the only thing that's not mixed. I think the only card we didn't show during Mini Extravaganza, or the only part of a card we didn't show, was which factions can take them. And I guess I will let that spoiler come out now, that they can be taken by any of the 4 main factions. So Pyke Syndicates, they don't really discriminate in their clientele. They work for everyone. What was that? Spice trade and all. I think I'm just going to start here. I need a little bit of black and a little bit. All right. So let's just have some fun. I did. All right. So I'm just going to take some of this. This is the Phthalo Blue with the green shade. She's coming back. What's wrong? Making me nervous. Add a little black to that Phthalo Blue with the green shade. Take a little bit of white. I'm just going to try to make kind of a cool little nightshade color. So we're just going to mess around. They do. They work for whoever is going to, make their business propositions work a little better. And that is definitely, they're unique among the first mercenaries to be released in that way. Most of the mercenary units and minis that are coming out, the different characters, they don't work for everyone. They're a little more touchy about who they'll function with. But the Pyke Syndicate are kind of the ubiquitous ones. That spice trade and their business deals and everything, they kind of get away with everything they want. So Will the Battle Force cards be released before the Shadow Collective hits the shelves? Are you talking about I assume, Battle Force cards, we mean the ones that we've been showing off and talking about on stream for Empire, Rebellion, Separatist Alliance, and Galactic Republic. Those ones are currently targeted to be out before Shadow Collective hits shelves. As far as the print and play documents, but we're still working on finalizing those. And they'll, of course, go to translators and stuff like that. So there's a little bit more work to do on them. But that is our expectation, is that you will see them before Shadow Collective hits shelves. At the moment, so yeah. So Echo Base Defenders, Blizzard Force, 501st, and the Trade Federation Invasion Force. I think I got that name right. Those online documents, so folks can play with them and use them in their games, should be out a little bit before Shadow Collective. How many ATSTs can I use in Snow Force? I don't remember off the top of my head. And I don't know if anybody who would know that specifically. I know it's at least 2. And we went through several iterations on that. So in my heart, I kind of want to say it's more than 2, but I'm not confident enough to say that. Maybe one of my fearless devs is in there, though, and they can jump in and be like, it's this. But I know it's at least 2. Yeah, that makes sense. As far as like the picking up maybe one extra ATST, well, the picking up's good. But yeah, I'm not 100% on that. So do not do anything based on my random painting recollection. This stuff here. Our violet blue going on. Maul. We're talking about the new Maul for Shadow Collective. So yeah, the Maul that's coming out in Shadow Collective, he will have some new command cards. He is still a Maul, so he can use the original Maul command cards, the operative one. And he does have the option to be used as a commander. And the thing that makes him either a commander or not, as I think most people have figured out, is whether or not he takes the Darksaber. So if he takes the Darksaber, he gets to act as the commander. And if you don't want him to be the commander, don't outfit him with the Darksaber, and he can run around and operative is hard out. So there's some fun flexibility with how you want to utilize Maul in your Shadow Collective. And of course, as we've talked about at Mini Stravaganza and stuff, I'm going to make his little like head quilt thing blue too. I know on the like official minis, this head scarf, head hood, whatever, I assume it's a water sack. So their little fishy heads can like swim around and be happy. But it's usually a starkly different color. I'm going to actually just go with the same color that I'm painting that undersuit, because I think it'll look cool. How many minis are in the Shadow Collective box? My gosh, I don't know. Fair amount. There is the Shadow Collective starter comes with Maul, Rook Cast, and then one of each of the units for Shadow Collective. So one Pyke, one Black Sun, and one Super Commando. Oh, there you go. See, look, BK's got it. 22. Yeah. Folks asking about, let's see, are the current bounty hunters going to still be looked at? I don't know what that means. We talked about at Mini Stravaganza how the current bounty hunters are, they did receive the mercenary faction, so they've changed. So, for example, like original Boba Fett, Bosk, and Cad Bane are no longer tied to a specific faction. They are now mercenaries themselves, and they work for different factions as well. This means that they do work for more than their original factions in most cases. A lot of that is based on the iteration of the character and what we see them do in the different Star Wars media and stuff. But they have gotten opened up a little bit as well. And yes, those updated cards you'll be able to get either through the rules update and points update documents, the errata docs basically, or you can pick them up in the new Essentials card pack, which will have a whole bunch of upgrades and other things, as well as the new printed cards for the bounty hunters. Okay, done that. I think I'm gonna stick with some violet. And what do I want to do here? Let's add some white. I think we're going to do purples and blues today, because that seems fun. I think that seems pretty fun. So, so the Pyke capo comes in the pack. So every Pyke unit has the base unit, the heavy weapon options, and then the capo for the Pykes and the Vigo for the Black Sun. And those miniatures can either be used as a commander option, or they are an upgrade option for the unit. So similar to kind of how the Stormtrooper Captain and the Clone Commander and stuff work. In those specialist boxes, these are just right in there for you, so I don't have to worry about it. Knock out these purples. So I'm basically just going to use this violet that I mixed up using just the Chimera violet and a little bit of the Chimera white and the black for all these different armor plates here. Going with some pretty classic cosmic colors, and then probably we'll shade these down quite a bit so that we look, properly sinister. But dark violets, dark blues, those are good blending colors when you're hiding out in alleys and stuff. Pure flat black actually doesn't conceal you in night very well. It makes you stand out, because night in a city or in an alley, there's more blues and purples to it, so you want those subtle shifts. Not that we're doing any kind of camo here, but that's kind of the inspiration, thinking about how somebody would stealthily sneak around in the alleyways of the core systems. Maybe a Pantora or a Coruscant. This guy's got spice to acquire. How Shadow Collective units work in other factions. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that, I think, before, but effectively, you can't mix and match pikes with other units. They're just additional, like all mercenaries are just additional options that you can use when building your army. So for example, if you decide I'm going to build an empire army, you have the option to include a certain number of mercenary units into that army. The mercenary units never count towards your minimums. So for instance, like you still have to take 3 Empire Core. You can't take 3 Pyke units. And you couldn't anyway because that would be over your maximum allowed, I believe, on the Pikes. But you can take a certain number based on which section it is from the Force Org. They don't count towards any of your minimums. And then you can utilize one of the new upgrade cards, which is Allies of Convenience, I think is the name of it. And that's a command upgrade, and that allows you to actually take an additional unit over your normal allotment of mercenary units. So for instance, like in Empire armies, now because the bounty hunters are mercenaries, you have to take Allies of Convenience if you want to take dual operative bounty hunters in your list. Because you're only allowed to take 1 mercenary operative in a normal list. So there's some new considerations that you have to do and take into account for the list building. And part of that is just balancing against the fact that mercenaries do get some benefits and some disadvantages from working in other factions. So we talked about this a little bit in Mini Extravaganza, but pretty much all mercenaries have the independent keyword, so they gain bonuses when they're not assigned an order token when they activate, but you also can't give an order from a commander that's not part of their group. So for example, even the Shadow Collective force, a Black Sun Vigo is not going to be able to order around a bunch of Pyke Syndicate troops. They're not going to listen to him. So the Black Sun Vigo can only order around Black Sun characters. And then if you're somebody like Maul, who everybody listens to you, now all of a sudden you can, hand out those orders however you want. So there's some very cool strategic and tactical decision making, and like I said, there's some benefits because if you don't have that order token assigned to you, you're going to get your independent benefit, and if you do have that order token assigned to you, you're not going to get your independent benefit. So, as far as narrative play options into the game, absolutely. It's been one of our big pushes just internally and something that we've definitely been working on. So in addition to continuing to support all of the competitive stuff, and the return of world events as COVID has kind of like gone in decline and we're able to plan for that stuff better. The first qualifier event, which will be held at Adepticon of this year, which will kind of kick off our new season, our combined season, I guess is a better way to put it. Because if you did qualify for one of those events in a previous year and you weren't unable to go to your Worlds event due to the COVID pandemic, your invite still counts towards this new season that's starting at Adepticon. In addition to all that stuff, of course, our goal is... I think I'm going to do that face purple. Our goal is to continue to expand the offerings for in-store play with more narrative kits and experiences, just to add even more exciting options and opportunities to Legion and X-Wing and Armada as well. There's a pretty fun Armada kit coming out that just went to print, which deals with a Shumagorath running around causing havoc as the fleets kind of fight in the Maelstrom around it. And it offers some pretty fun opportunities and stuff. Needs more pink. I don't think it needs any pink. No pinks. Not today. Maybe some magentas. In fact, I will do some magenta. You lost the picture of Maul's card that we never showed. Who knew? Shocking. Shocking. A little bit of that magenta out. Okay, so let's do a little magenta, grab a little of this violet. That's working pretty good. Like that. And then we're just gonna use that for his little faceplate thing. We can brighten that up as we go, mess around with stuff. Figure out their skin tones. That'll probably just be a gray, I think, because we got so much color going on here. I don't want to go too synth wavy on this guy, but I'm enjoying it. I think for the folks in chat asking like how many things do I need for how many points, part of it really depends on how you run your units, right? The starter for the Shadow Collective obviously is not a full 800 points. I think no matter how you kind of kit it out, it is a starter in like how the core boxes and stuff are a starter. So I think you could definitely make a pretty nice skirmish level force with it. But it's left open-ended because there's a lot of customization and flexibility, and we don't want to lock players into kind of a system. Some players are going to want to field more pikes. Some players are going to definitely want to field a nice mixture of the two and keep everything balanced with their core units and stuff. Some players are probably going to focus more heavily on the special forces and the Mandalorian super commandos, and choose the core unit that they feel like fits best with that strategy. So rather than kind of define player choices with our starter, what we like to do is just give a solid foundation of the things that you kind of need to get going, and then from there definitely leave it up to the players to make those choices for themselves. So and I think that's one of the really interesting things about Shadow Collective and the way that it works, is that you do have some pretty intriguing choices to make right out of the gate when it comes to which core units you want to run. Are you kind of running that mix of them and then dealing with kind of how that will mess with your order activation, or using Maul to make up for it? Are you going to just really heavily focus on one element that you super like? For example, maybe maybe you're a huge Shadows of the Empire fan from way back when, and you're just like Black Sun all the way. Or maybe you're inspired by the events of Book of Boba, and you're like, Pyke seem really cool. I want to run a whole Pyke Syndicate force. And the Shadow Collective stuff really allows you the flexibility to do that. And then, of course, in so doing, it'll change your approach and what you want, what is good, all of that stuff. So I think that's one of the really neat things about the Shadow Collective in general, is just its impressive flexibility right out of the gate. There are going to be options for heavy and support for the Shadow Collective for sure. So it will expand to some extent over a little bit of the time. Of course, one of the big differences with kind of the battle forces that we've talked about is, they're not meant to compete in the same way as like the main faction. So you're not going to see as many frequent or common releases as you see for something like Empire or things like that. Battle forces can change over time. So as new mercenaries are released that make sense within the context of an old battle force, and this is true of a faction battle force as well, they'll get updated, and those things will be added to the list of allowed things. So for instance, someday if something comes out in media, like for example, Book of Boba really expanded what we know and have seen from the Pyke Syndicate, which really itself was built on what we saw in season 7 of the Clone Wars. All of those things are very much things that can be added in the future. So these are living, battle forces themselves are living, breathing entities just like normal factions are. And where it makes sense and there's opportunity to do so, they will grow and change and adjust. A lot of people were asking when we were talking about the 501st Battle Force, about, well, if it doesn't allow operatives currently, how are you going to take Ahsoka someday? Because Ahsoka was part of the 501st. And it's like, yep. If that ever became a thing, then that battle force would probably adjust to allow for it. So you should never look at anything as if it's set in stone forever and ever. Everything is built and designed to be complete within whatever wave that was built for it, but also with the flexibility and understanding that it can grow in the future. Just like a houseplant. You can either trim it back and keep it at the same size, or you can always choose to repot it so that it can get bigger. A little too much. Ooh. Not enough. Just trying to mix up a little bit of a highlight color here and avoid it from going to the pink side, which I suppose I could be using yellow for, but this will work fine. What do we got going on? What's happening? What we're mixing? What about that droid attacking the Wookiees? I don't know. I don't have good relations with the Wookiees. They shed and I have allergies. Not interested. They're on their own. I think somebody was asking about R2 and the 501st Battle Force. There can be a couple of reasons why certain things might get excluded from a battle force. In terms of the R2 case, that was a gameplay balance need. So current R2 and the way in which he functions didn't really play correctly with the way in which we wanted the battle force to be balanced and what it was meant to represent and do. So even though, R2 is Anakin's little droid companion, if you watch that Umbara arc, you don't see a lot of R2 in general, so we kind of just say, well, the R2's off on one of his secret droid missions by himself, while the 501st are currently engaged in Umbara. That doesn't mean that there might not be, again, who knows? Maybe there's a future new version of R2 or something. Maybe things shift in a way in which R2 becomes not problematic. Anything is possible. The door isn't closed on it for the future, but keeping things balanced and competitively natured and all that stuff is really important to the success and the fun of battle forces. So we wanted to make sure that that was definitely accounted for, and there are certain decisions that get made where you have to, let go of some of the super narrative flavor for that healthy all brand rules balance. Like I was talking about this morning, there's having some dev discussions, and I was like, well, this rule is like packed full of sugary good flavor, but it's not really dense nutritional calories. So if we have to cut it, we can. And that's, It's part of the deal. Yep, the RRG will be updated alongside all the Shadow Collective stuff. There's going to be a number of different rules and things, like independent obviously has to get added, all those things. So there will be a normal update, just like with every release of a Legion wave that'll happen right alongside of it. And it will include whatever required updates the devs have decided at the time. I don't know off the top of my head if you're going to see a points adjustment at that time or if it's going to come later. But obviously the RRG itself will have to be updated with all these delicious new rules, which will also explain how mercenaries work, how Shadow, or how Battle Forces and all that stuff work. And that Battle Force stuff may come earlier. It'll come whenever the Battle Forces are released. And like we talked about, you know, the current goal is that those 4 faction Battle Forces will release slightly before Shadow Collective. So obviously you'll need all of the rules for how Battle Forces work before you can actually use Battle Forces. So that update will get made when it is time to do so. The official changes to the old bounty hunters like Bosk, Boba. Whoa, Bosk and Boba, hard to say right next to each other. It's like a tongue twister. And Cad Bane will, I believe, happen when the Shadow Collective stuff is released, because that's when the print cards will come out. But I couldn't tell you that for absolute certainty. It's possible they might be in the document earlier. I certainly know that the printed cards will come out alongside those Shadow Collective releases in currently June, according to one BK. Go BK. He's really the guy. He has all the answers. I don't have any answers. Just sitting here painting my shadowy Pyke Syndicate guy. There will be opportunities in the future and products that will allow you to get Battle Force materials for these very first 4 in physical print, but that's not how they're going to launch. With production and everything being kind of like how it is, we wanted to make sure that, you know, all the factions had their Battle Force goodies around the same time as the Shadow Collective. So in order to do that and make it really viable and feasible on a timeline, we opted for the print and play option first. But yes, the goal always is to try to get materials into... Oh, we're going to have to be very careful with this color because I am quickly approaching pink. But it's going to look really sharp, I think, as a nice little like spotty highlight. We just have to be careful not to use too much. Oh, I need my other brush here. Blend that out. Yes, Cad Bane. I think all 3 of the bounty hunters open up to 1 additional faction at the very least. So, except for, well, that might not be true actually. I think maybe original Boba's Empire only, outside of any Battle Force in the future that might allow him. But Bosk definitely gets a new faction, and I'm pretty sure Cad Bane gets a new faction. However, You should always wait until the rules are final, because my memory, as has been proven multiple times to me, is a little faulty. And the problem of seeing 15 different iterations of rules from time to time, sometimes it becomes very difficult for me to separate fantasy from reality. Ooh! That's a big line. Let's fix that. There we go. There. So I'm just doing a little edge highlighting here and a little like zazz of color to give that armor a bit of that reflective sheen. Make it pop without actually doing a whole lot of work. Just a little bit of those like scritch lines and little edge highlights and stuff. That leg, and then we can blend it out. Make it look like we got a little bit of a reflection there. And there. Here. I'm like in the zone, Summer, so if there's any questions I need to answer, you might have to like yell at me. I'm 100% focused on these little armor plates right now. So the card pack, it's effectively the second card pack, so it's very similar to the card pack that's currently released for Legion, which it kind of collects a lot of the ubiquitous or necessary upgrade cards that have been released since that first card pack came out. So especially if you're getting into Shadow Collective, you may want it so that you can have access to generic upgrades that won't be appearing in, you know, the boxes for Shadow Collective itself. You won't have to go pick up a unit of Rebel Troopers or whatever to get access to those. You can just supplement your library very quickly and easily with Card Pack 1 and Card Pack 2. And then, of course, it will have some new mercenary stuff in it, which will be especially useful to Shadow Collective players, but may also be interesting to folks who want physical print components for like the updated bounty hunters and stuff like that. But absolutely not necessary, because you can just use the print and play versions that are there. It's just kind of like a additional opportunity for those folks who really like having the official card. And honestly, if you're playing the Shadow Collective anywhere or plan to do the Shadow Collective, you're probably going to want it regardless, so why not? But we really want to make sure that, you know, no one feels locked out or necessarily paywalled in having to get something that they can't use or don't want so that they can get access to some upgrade cards that everybody needs. You know, the Shadow Collective starter is kind of assuming that you're probably not buying the core set, one of the two core sets that we all likely started with if we're still playing the game. If you're a brand new player and you're really drawn to the idea of playing this scum and villainy kind of faction with Maul and all these different criminals, you know, you don't have to go out and pick up the Rebellion, Galactic Civil War era starter with Luke and Vader, or the Clone Wars starter. You can just pick up all of the extra materials and the Essentials kit and all that stuff, and you're good to go. So, opening up opportunity for players to start in different ways, and just kind of building that road forward for more things like the Shadow Collective that explore different segments of Star Wars and truly act as a on-ramp for players who may not be as interested or compelled by one of the main four factions. Or maybe you just, know what you want for your main 4 faction army, and you don't want to get a core set. Certainly viable too. These card packs basically allow you to catch right up without having to necessarily start with one of those products. Yep, I have human memory. It's not perfect. So unless there's a dev type folk in there who can reference the actual rules document, which I can't from my little painting stand. I can't tell you ATST counts or anything like that. Because I don't remember and I didn't prep. A lot of times, when I know we're working on something or covering something, I'll do a fair bit of rereading so that I know what I'm talking about. But I'm only supposed to talk about, primarily I'm focusing on Pykes today, so that's what I did my quick refresher on. Pykes, Shadow Collective, and Mercenaries. All right, pretty happy with that. I think that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead. Shadow Collective game on stream, I would probably guess around Mini Stravaganza times. So it'll be a little bit. We're still kind of slowly ramping back into everything post-COVID. We want to make sure that all of our staff are safe and, taken care of and stuff. So we've kind of taken our time. We want to make sure that everyone's going to be pretty good before we start going full on into game streams, and they typically involve a lot of people and all that stuff. So I don't have a Lobot style head. Man, oh my gosh. Life would be so much easier in some ways if I had that. Like if I could just download it really quick and be like, boop, boop, boop. Oh, it's this. See, I know. I'm ready to go. But I don't. I just have my faulty meat sack of a memory. It's just a bunch of fat. I mean, honestly, you really think about it, your brain is, it's like the offal that they normally just throw away. It's just wet and squishy and it doesn't taste good. There's nothing like redeeming about it. That's your brain. Look, all I'm saying is there was a reason, before modern medicine that they were like, the brain serves no purpose. It's because you look at it and you're just like, well, that's gross. It's just like the body's gyroscope. It keeps you upright, sloshing around up there. Disgusting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think this is pretty fun. Pretty fun color scheme. I'm liking it. It's very synth wavy, which is all right. Got to figure out what color we want to paint the Pyke skin here. Figure that out at some point. Not that there's a ton showing, but there's enough. Gonna blend this color up. Use that really strong zenith on the top of the little hood thing to go. Will Shadow Collective be limited in the number of core that it can run? No. It depends what you mean by limited. It obviously can only, as a battle force, it can only take core units that are allowed by the battle force. So I guess it's limited in that way. But if you mean like it gets fewer core choices or anything like that, it has its own battle force org chart, like all battle forces do, but it's, as I recall, it's basically equitable to the standard like faction force org. I don't think you'll find yourself limited in any significant way for sure. Yes, miss?
There's some questions about the Armada location that you mentioned earlier in the chat.
Oh yeah. So, what did I say about that? There is going to be an Armada in-store narrative event. It comes out later this year. We just sent it off to production actually, and it is pretty cool. It's basically your fleets are engaging in the Maelstrom. So if you remember kind of like the solo Kessel run, when they go off course and they wind up in the big old Maelstrom kind of storm. Same idea. So there's like a big old space storm, which has random effects and can mess with you. And then of course there is a Shumagorath, which calls the Maelstrom home. And it kind of floats around and uses its squibbly tentacles to attack ships that they get too close and all that stuff. So it's pretty fun. It's very, a little chaotic. It's one of the things that we always look for in a good narrative event is you want to add those interesting complications that, don't lead to a perfectly balanced, tight, competitive game. They tell a story and cause chaos and make you really have to think your way out of or deal with. So if Lady Luck is on your side, sometimes it works out to your favor, and sometimes you're on the receiving end of the badness. It kind of depends. But it's a lot of fun. And like all of the in-store organized play narrative events that we do, you get to keep all the materials if you play in it, so you can replay the scenario with your friends or gaming crew whenever you want in the future. You get a pretty sick-looking Shumagorath. It's not really a token, but, it's kind of a token. It's a massive token. So, you got all that stuff. And then I believe that kit also includes the voted on upgrade from the first mini extravaganza we did. So the prize, quote unquote prize, which you just get for showing up and playing games, along with all of the materials themselves, is that alternate art card from the mini extravaganza event. I probably can't say anything about Rookcast because I've said too much. I'm getting the look, I've talked about a lot of things I don't think we really discussed beforehand. I haven't gotten the slow summer head shake yet, though. Could be because I'm not looking over there on purpose. That's when you know you're going to have a discussion later on. That slow, disappointed head shake. Spoil some of your head shake. You all just want to. You just want me to get in trouble. That's where we're at. Don't make Summer turn this car around. She'll do it. Oh, we're gonna get Summer. I already told Summer. I was like, "You're getting on. You're gonna do a paint stream with us at some point, probably for mini extravaganza. We'll get her to play some games with Dallas." Yeah. Josh didn't escape it. Summer's not getting away from it. Being the camera lord also means that you got to be in front of the camera at least a couple times. All right. All I have to do in 9 minutes is figure out my skin tone. I can't show you anything about them all because the only box that I have is this one. Boop. See if that fits on screen while I dig up my colors, Summer. This will work. Whoop. How's that? Is that better? I'm gonna get paint all over it, then I'm gonna get yelled at. So I have the Pyke Syndicate box because that's the one that came in. So that's why we're painting a Pyke today. I did show the back. It's right here. You're on a delay. I don't know. Is that better? I can't see what's happening, so I don't know if I'm in frame or not. Of course I'm not. But that's why they call it a tease, right? I don't think there's a way I can do it. Maybe like that? Is that better? All right, we're going to use rainy gray for our Pyke skin. So I want something kind of neutral here. So, But yeah, I can show the frames too, probably. I won't be able to finish this guy if I do, but I'm sure people would rather see the frames than see this guy get a little gray skin on him. Classic alien skin, Summer. He's a gray. Yeah, he's a gray alien. I felt like going, some kind of really crazy bright color would just be too much, too overpowering. This is why he bedecks himself in colorful clothes and armor, because he's just a boring, bland gray. So he's got to be ostentatious in other ways. You see. Ostentatious in other ways. All right, here, let's see if the frames are still in here. They should be. So I'm really impressed with the engineering work that happened on these. They look fantastic. So, how about right there? Is that good? There you go. So here are the two frames that come in the box. Really great, very easy overall to assemble and all of that. They have really great fits. Pretty fun. And then we showed this once before, so why not? Just because it's here. I'm going to show this. Technically, we showed all this at Mini Stravaganza, but now you can see it with the little faction icons. You can see the unit card, only because I'm generous today. It's really glary, so I don't even know if that's helpful. But exactly the same as at Mini Stravaganza, the important bit is right here. This little box right here tells you which factions your mercenaries can be taken in. So you'll see that our little Pykes have all 4 little symbols. So you can all be there. They don't have to be big icons. You can see them like right away. There's your unit card for little Pykes. And that's the one bit of information that was all blacked out during Mini Stravaganza. So now you've seen the full card. Otherwise, nothing else really changed from there to here to there. Boo, boo, boo. Boop. Does it imply new factions could come? Certainly no new factions that yay Pyke syndicates could work for. There, we got our gray skin tone. Let's see if we can't get some little eyeballs going on. Burp. Burp. Oh, this is the hard side. Your offhanded side is always tough. There. Now he's got some little beady eyes. Ooh, beady. Can we finish him in an hour? Probably not, because I have 4 minutes and I can't find any metallics. No! It's the worst. Oh my gosh, that's super bright. I don't want that. Yeah, why not? We'll just go all the way. We'll use some of this unopened. The worst. Use some of this Cobalt Alchemy from Scale 75. It's going to be real bright, but that's okay. It'll fit into our electronic music cover look. Plus, when we go back and clean this fella up and do some shading and stuff with some washes, we can tone that back down. Give it a nice space steel kind of look. Yep. Yep. He is. He's ready to dance. Sometimes, you know, you just want to go feel the beat. This guy, however, when he feels the beat, gives out the B-teens. That's what he does. He's a monster. What? You know. Summer, you know. You know. You got this. All right, and it's a little weird. Their hands are so weird. That means their gun pommels are weird. Not as weird as the Black Sun folks, though. Look, do you want it done right, or do you not want to see the back of my head?